Hey, how's it going, everybody? Scott Spreitzer here. He's Doug Upstone. We are Us Against the Spread, brought to you by DocSports.com. The free show this week, talking Thursday college football, talking Thursday NFL football, the Jags and the Saints. We're going to get to both of those games in just a moment. Don't forget, every week we've got two big shows over at usagainstthespread.docsports.com. Doug and I this week going over about 8 to 10 college football games, including the big clash in the Big Ten between Penn State and Ohio State. We'll give our thoughts on that particular game. And, of course, then on Friday night, we release our NFL show for the upcoming week, which means you're going to basically what we're going to do is dissect, discuss, and preview from a sports betting standpoint all of these Sunday NFL games and, of course, Monday Night Football. What you can call it, I guess, would be a live newsletter. Folks who have been around the sports betting industry for all these years know about those newsletters you get in the mail. Well, we get to do them with all updated line moves, injury updates, and all that kind of good stuff. And that's basically what Us Against the Spread is all about with our picks on those games. Again, check it out, usagainstthespread.docsports.com. And before we jump into what we're going to have at our basically at our homepages at docsports.com, where all of our picks are exclusively, Doug, any thoughts on this past week or what's coming up for you this week?
Yeah, in terms of not exactly sure what's coming up this week, because I'm still working on things. But this past week had another winning week in the NFL here on the show, so that was great. I did go 1-1 in best bets. A little disappointed in the Atlanta Falcons not coming through, but hey, those things are going to happen. And Desmond Ridder 31-0. We talked about it last week on the show, Scott. At home, well, it's now 31-1. So we're kind of done with that for a while. But no, again, winning week on picks there, and then 3-4 in college. But just one of the games could have gone either way. Well, the actually was a push, the Oregon-Washington game. But that's another story for another day for both of us, good and bad.
Well, I had the other side of that game from you, so of course it pushed on a 3. But anyway, we last week I had my 3 straight Sunday sweep in the NFL come to an end. I lost this last Sunday, and I guess the bad beat. If we had a bad beat segment, I think this would take the cake this week. I had the New England Patriots plus a field goal, and they're trailing by 2 with about 1:40 to go, and Mac Jones takes a sack in the end zone for the safety, and that makes it a loser against the spread. So that was the bummer of the 6-star. But college football and NFL, despite what happened last Sunday, we're now 25-12 with all sides totals. These are premium plays, sides totals, and also with the props thrown into that also, 25-12. I don't have my card completely done, but I do have an 8-star, first one of the season going this weekend in college football. It'll be available only at DocSports.com on my Handicappers homepage on Thursday afternoon. So be sure to check that out. We'll talk a little bit more about everything we got going on our Us Against the Spread college football show, which again will be available on Thursday night. And again, don't forget all of our plays are exclusively found at DocSports.com on our Handicappers homepage. All right, Doug, what do you say? Let's get to it. Some Thursday night pro football. We got the Jags at the Saints in the Big Easy. New Orleans laid a point there. The total 39.5 for the most part, give or take a half a point. It's come down a little bit. The Saints were once a 3-point favorite as far as the spread was concerned. Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence is questionable due to a knee injury, Doug, and the Saints are now 1 and even down to pick him in some books as we cut this video. If Lawrence can't go, it's C.J. Beathard. He hasn't started in the NFL in 3 years. And whichever quarterback gives it a go behind center for the Jags, the offensive line has some bumps and bruises for Jacksonville that has to be shored up too. So we'll see how that goes. But Doug, what's your take before I jump into what I'm looking at here?
Yeah, I think that's one of the key elements here is to make sure that everybody looks to find out what's happening with Lawrence, and that's going to the way it sounds, it could be like a game time practice, before the game practice decision, at least at this point. And, so that changes things up. And, with just having ETN as the running back as the main part of the offense, I mean, not that Beathard can't play, but, all these guys are backups for reasons. Yeah. And then both teams have injuries. Actually, you mentioned the offensive line for Jacksonville. Also, New Orleans offensive line is beat up also. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. I guess that's what I'm really trying to say. Among the moving parts, though, is Derek Carr. Yeah. He's got a few injury issues of his own, not as serious maybe as what Lawrence's is, but if you had those types of receivers that New Orleans has, along with Alvin Kamara, shouldn't you be averaging more than 18.2 points per game? Dennis Allen doesn't do much for me as a head coach. I'm not saying he didn't deserve another shot. The defense is doing fine, giving up 16.2 points per game. In this one, I'm looking at a situation here, like I said, with Lawrence still up in the air. I'm still going to, though, lean towards New Orleans. Jaguars 8-32 against the spread against the AFC, now on the road. I'll take New Orleans on this one, Scott.
Well, I'll give them a total to go with that side then. I'm playing the under here. The Jags offense, nothing special, even when healthy. And you mentioned what New Orleans is doing offensively. And they also don't give up a lot of points on the defensive side of the football. It's dropped a bit, this total. But even though it has, and it's due to some of these potential players missing this game, I still like the under. I still think at 39.5 or so, and you can shop around for maybe another half a point on that, but I think it stays under the total. So Doug likes the New Orleans Saints. I'm going with the under in that game. College football Thursday night, couple of games. We're going to focus on the Sun Belt Conference clash, James Madison at Marshall. This number's dropped, Doug. James Madison was as much as a 6-point favorite about 36 to 40 hours ago. It's Tuesday late afternoon now as we cut this video. They're 3.5 in most books, total right around 51.5 as we speak. Your thoughts on this one with the Dukes down to 3.5 in this one, down a couple and a half points?
I keep waiting for them to mess up, even though I really like this team. They've come out of nowhere. Right. Especially at this level of football. Yes, Sun Belt is not, the SEC or anything like that, but it's still up from Division II or I guess FCS level football, where they were very good in the past. But there's so many things about this team that I find really interesting. Offense is really sharp with Jordan McLeod as the quarterback. Their offense is in the top 30 and top 30 in scoring, top 30 in defense in terms of points. So they really do a nice job across the board. The McLeod, I mentioned the quarterback, 14 TDs, 3 interceptions. So he's on target, and they got a big play passing game. Now, the one thing about James Madison, though, number one, defense against the run. Why is it number one? Because they put so much pressure on the opposing quarterback, and of course, those numbers come off the rush totals. So I think they're tied with Penn State for the number of sacks at 4.6 points per game. But you can pass on James Madison because with all that pressure, well, you can't play a lot of tight coverage, so they play it pretty loose, and they're ranked 126th. Marshall has lost their last 2 games, Scott, to NC State and Georgia State, both on the road. Thundering Herd prefers a better balance of run and pass. But the one thing I have seen out of Coach Charlie Huff is that if things aren't going well with the run, he will just go pass only. Now, Marshall's defense, the last 3 games, they've given up 35, 48, and 41 points in their last 3 contests. I just don't see that where that's going to be good enough against a team that seems to be as good as James Madison is at undefeated at 6-0 and 5-1. This is a big game for Marshall, though. Okay, no 2 ways about it. I expect them to be really fired up at home, to play very well, but they are a turnover-prone team, and they're facing a team that forces a lot of miscues. I'm going to take James Madison minus the 4 on the road in this one. Scott, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Marshall starts, 4-0 out of the blocks. And then You mentioned the 35 they gave up. That was a win that they gave up the 35. And in the last 2 weeks, they dropped both games after starting 4-0. They're now 4-2, and they gave up a combined 89 points in those 2 games to NC State and Georgia State. As far as James Madison, looking at last week's game, when I do my handicapping usually either late Saturday nights, I recap what happened in college football, go over drive charts, things of that nature, or on Sunday mornings. And I saw they won 41-13 over Georgia Southern. I didn't watch the game, but I went in, looked at some of the drive charts. They only outgained the Eagles by about 15 to 20 yards. It was all about turnovers. You mentioned they forced them. Well, James Madison, finished with a +3 turnover margin against Georgia Southern, and that was really the difference in the game. It bothers me a bit that Marshall is bad against the run, but the Herd offense is okay on the ground. They can also throw the football, as you said, a little bit more balanced. They're better through the air. The Dukes are really awful sometimes on pass defense. So I am going to go with an upset here. Now, it might have been a premium play if I still would have been able to get 6 with James Madison, but it's 3.5, 4 as we speak. So for me, it is a play on the Marshall Thundering Herd plus the points over James Madison. Just put a little handle on that football, and I think Marshall will be okay. So anyway, that's what we're going to do with this game. A little bit of a split as far as our projections or our thoughts on this game. Doug going with James Matt. I'll take the points with the Thundering Herd. Again, folks, don't forget to check out usagainstthespread.docsports.com. That's where you can find our premium shows, $19.99 per month. We talk, between 90 and 100 games per month. So you're talking about basically $5 per week to receive all of those games throughout the course of a month over at Us Against the Spread. And we enjoy doing it. We've been very pleased with the reaction from those of you who've jumped on board. And again, we talk about a whole lot of games, college and pro. Thursday night college football game, Friday night NFL game. For Doug Upstone, I'm Scott Spreitzer. We are Us Against the Spread, brought to you by DocSports.com. Let's put them in the win column. Have a great week.